Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Laurence Chu, actually Mark Chu. Our topic actually with Jingo is almost the same in context DevOps. But I'm actually here to promote this role, DevOps, in terms of uh, integrating into the businesses. And I can see currently the DevOps role is one of the most in demand in the industry. So my topic would be there's no technical actually it's mostly walang technical sa topic ano. So how DevOps principles are transforming IT operations and business agility. So I'm a AWS guy for a long time. So I was a former AWS user group lead here in West Visayas. Um, my main work is I'm an AWS Big Data Solutions Architect and I'm a data ops. So because I work mostly with bank. So my specialty actually is working with banking industry in the US and banking industry in Europe. So my primary task is designing solutions for migrating on-premise or from other cloud into AWS. That's my main responsibility. So one of my credentials is before is that I'm a solutions architect professional certified in AWS, DevOps engineering professional, data analytics specialty, and Azure data engineer associate. So before you work with institutions like banking institutions in the US and the Europe, you need to have these qualifications to make sure that you are qualified to work with their big data centers. So yeah, as I said, my industry is banking and finance. I work with big banks in Europe and also have been working with finance and fintechs. Fintech, not in the Philippines, mostly in US and Europe. And as I've said, I'm a former AWS user group lead here. So nag-retire na kasi wala nang time. So why DevOps? As I can see, in our industry now, we have high demand for DevOps. Because most of the banking industry are migrating into more of a microservices architecture rather than the monolithic before. So the DevOps field role is expanding. DevOps is just part of the role. There are quite a lot of DevOps in the industry. So for example, the data ops. The data ops actually is a combination of data engineering and DevOps. So what we do, especially in fintech, for example, stock market or forex. So there are actually engineers running in the background, maintaining the data stream between New York NYSE Stock Exchange and into their own platform. So DevOps skills are in high demand now in the market. Based from our company, that I've been working for three of the biggest banks here globally actually. Then so DevOps skills are in demand now because we're hiring a lot of DevOps in my industry. Core skills and principles you learn in DevOps can be implemented in other tools. It's DevOps more of culture, okay, and mindset on how to run the system in the back end. Then especially companies that implement microservices architecture. So now fintechs and finance nagmo-microservices na sila in terms of deployment at the back end. Okay, so yeah, DevOps is some basic definition. I know most of you have seen or encountered DevOps, no? So it's actually a combination of development and operations. So I cannot actually emphasize the word collaboration and communication between teams. Now, I appreciated DevOps when I was working in a fintech based in Australia. Okay? We have a team of around 150 people, 150 engineers actually, because we were running Forex is 24/7. So the operations is 24/7. So basically what happened was that all the teams actually doesn't know each other, but because the DevOps were designed so efficiently that the operation doesn't back down, hindi siya tumitigil 24/7. And kahit may konting bug, it would definitely be fixed at the shortest amount of time. So DevOps, if properly implemented, is actually pretty effective. So one of the definition of DevOps is actually streamlining software delivery process. In our part, for example, if we have an update in the fintech app that you're using, kailangan hindi mag-down ang system. So it needs to propagate, for example, its update, and yeah, it's update now. So some basic, actually there are five key principles, but I emphasize the three, okay, because this is the most commonly implemented principles, no? So, but collaboration, this is, I think, the most important principle in DevOps. If the team is properly collaborated, kahit gaano kalaki yung team ninyo, you would be running a very efficient system. As I've said, fintech is the most critical, one of the most critical systems that I have worked with, and konting pagkakamali, you would lose millions of dollars. So collaboration, automation, everything is automated, right? So for example, automated in terms of escalation of ticket, sometimes and updates. Okay, so automation, repetitive tasks. Then we have continuous integration. In terms of continuous integration, if we have updates in our mobile app, for example, for our clients, for fintech, for Forex, any new updates will be implemented automatically and continuously without stopping the whole system. So, yan yung advantage ng DevOps. Okay, so benefits, let me go through this. No? So, improve efficiency. So, hindi na namin kailangan ng, those bureaucratic work na kailangan ipaalam kay PM, paalam kay SM, for example, that basically may gagawin. Quality, you need to maintain quality because, benefits is enhanced quality in terms of automation. So, hindi bumabagal yung system natin, mabilis siya, and operationally, maganda yung pagtakbo. Then, increase business agility. And for our part dito, in banking, for example, we deal with a lot of clients. So, as you know, if you work with, let's say, fund managers, no? Fund managers or hedge fund managers that they're managing millions or billions of data, they're very demanding in terms of operations. So, business agility, every time you basically add a new system and a new features, you're actually, parang it's going to be an improvement to the performance the quality of your clients' access to your system. So, and at the same time, pag maganda yung features mo, maraming gagamit ng platform mo. Okay, common tools, as Sir Jingo said, commonly used in a repository, GitLab, that's the most common. We use Jenkins. Most of the time, if you're working with AWS, the most commonly used, actually, especially in AWS, we have Jenkins. Configuration management, both from the Ansible and Puppet. Ansible is the most commonly used, especially when working with Terraform. Containerization platforms. This one, I cannot, if you're planning to go into DevOps, which is in demand. Now, I'll provide the reason later why DevOps now is slowly in demand, especially for banking. We're hiring a lot of DevOps in banking and finance. So I'll go back to that later. So containerization platforms, we're using Docker and Kubernetes. This is the most common, I know if you've heard of these containers, but this is commonly used. So we're managing a lot of servers at the same time in containers. So Docker, Kubernetes, and monitoring and logging tools. So either it's going to be Prometheus and Elk Stack. So monitoring and logging tools is one of the most important skill set that you need to learn when you are a DevOps, because you're monitoring your system's performance running at the back end real time. So this is one of the most important tools and benefits that you need to learn. Okay, there. Yeah, I'm familiar with GCP. I've worked with the cloud platform in fintech. I'm familiar with Azure. I work with a bank in Spain, migrating their system from Azure or into Azure. But my main specialty is AWS. So basically, these are the most common cloud tools that we're using, services that we've been using in AWS. Lambda, ECS, EKS, CDK, code build, code deploy, code pipeline, beanstalk, and especially CloudFormation if we're using IAC. In terms of deployment in the cloud, or we are using actually now IAC. No, the deployment now in terms of in DevOps principle, we're using infrastructure as code. This one. So actually almost all of the banking institution that I've been working are deploying using Terraform, either using Terraform, for example, or CloudFormation when deploying in AWS. If you go through all the job posting, if you could see with DevOps, data engineering, data architect, solutions architect, you would probably see IAC, infrastructure as a cloud. So if you want to go to DevOps, this is now a core requirements as one of your skill set. Infrastructure as a cloud deployment, either using IAC or using Terraform or using Pulumi. But Terraform now is the most commonly used IAC tool. Okay, so as I've said, these are the cloud tools and services that we're using. Then, for all of DevOps in WordPress team, probably, I've worked with WordPress, so I'm familiar with WordPress. I was a former WordPress developer. I've deployed in WordPress, so medyo familiar before I moved to other platform. You could use actually DevOps. I don't know how many of you here are DevOps in WordPress, or is WordPress still, is it a common role in terms of WordPress? But I guess for DevOps in WordPress, you could use the WordPress for version control, site maintenance, continuous delivery. So if you have a new plugin, if you have a new version, for example, to deploy into DevOps, you could use continuous delivery. Risk management, you have security issues, for example, you could use the, let's say, DevSecOps. You could deploy their security patches, for example, and the most important thing is backup and disaster recovery. So I guess for me now, it's been around, I think 5-6 years, no, 7 years actually, since I've worked with WordPress. Okay. Okay, so yeah. Challenges and best practices. I know it's for DevOps. DevOps are fun. I'm sorry, wrong term. DevOps usually use open source. They're very fond of using open source, especially now. Even though I'm an AWS guy, I would probably say, as much as possible, use tools that are cloud agnostic. Why? Cloud agnostic, so that you could migrate your deployment not just in AWS. You could deploy your you could deploy your using Terraform. You could deploy your servers not just in AWS. You could deploy it in GCP or probably Azure. So as an AWS guy, I would basically encourage you to use like Terraform, for example, and set up all your build in there inside Terraform. So DevOps implementation, integrate third-party plugins. So that's one of the best practices for using DevOps, managing databases, handling content and updates. So best practices for overcoming challenges also, such as using version control. I know version control is one of the most challenges with WordPress, because sometimes may bagong version yung plugin, you need to update the plugin, but they have conflicts with other plugins. So that's one of the challenges and best practices of using DevOps. Okay, so yeah, let me go through this fast. So how to measure WordPress DevOps team efficiency? So some metrics, probably metrics if you're in DevOps, some metrics that basically you need to evaluate, which is like say, pwede natin sabihin KPI mo. No, the downtimes that you have, how many downtimes does your server have or website have, the loading speed of your server. You could make that as a measurement or metric for evaluation. Updates, patches. Then customer satisfaction. If you have a good, basically running efficient website, then customer satisfaction should be good. And infrastructure. So DevOps reliability. So basically, kahit anong infra mo, kahit anong OS mo, kahit anong update ng OS mo and patch, your infrastructure and everything is going to still run. Okay? Yeah, this is one of the things that I'm going to highlight because now I'm not encouraging you to move away from WordPress. WordPress is pretty good. But if you decide someday that you are going to go to a role that's in high demand, we in banking is hiring a lot in terms of related to DevOps. Because almost, especially in finance, especially in fintech, almost everyone is moving into microservices architecture, and especially banking, because they could save hardware, for example. So in our company, for example, we're in high demand of hiring DevOps. DevOps is not as entry role most of the time, but we actually are training DevOps to go into, kasi ang DevOps not just DevOps role eh. Like me, if I have DevOps skills, then I'm a data engineer, I can be a data ops. So if you are a DevOps guy, but you have also a security skills, you're going to be a DevSecOps guy, for example. Or girl for that matter. Yeah, career path. Let's go to career path. History before, system administrator sa mga medyo may edad na dito, before there was no DevOps role. Before ang tawag sa mga DevOps, either you come from a system administrator background or you come from a back-end engineering background. So yan yung mga former name ng DevOps, nung wala pa yung DevOps role. But now, alternative roles now na meron tayo is DevSecOps. In my company, we hire around 20 plus cybersec, include DevSecOps, kasi sa banking, importante yung security, cybersec. Actually, parang mas mataas pa yung tawag dito, the responsibility of the cybersec guys or the privilege of the cybersec guys, mas mataas pa sa mga solutions architect. Because when we implement something, kailangan namin ng nod ng cybersec team. So hindi kami pwedeng mag-deploy ng bagong product, hindi kami pwedeng magpalabas ng bagong data, hindi kami pwedeng mag-suggest ng bagong tools if hindi mag-approve yung cybersec team. So you have the DevSecOps, you have the data ops. These are data engineering plus DevOps role. Usually, what we do here is we maintain data streaming. Big data streaming. Like for example, like Forex or ticker sa mga stock market, yun yung trabaho ng data ops. We also have ML ops. This one actually is in very high demand now. I don't know if you know. One of our companies is hiring around 10 ML ops because, di ba lumabas si ChatGPT and generative AI. So, one of the industries now that is heavily investing in AI, take note of this based from my experience. If one industry, especially banking, if banking is heavily investing on one technology, there's a very big chance that that technology is going to boom. It's going to gain ground in the next 5 to 6 years because banks have a very big, very deep pocket. Kuripot, but when they're dealing with new technology that they see or they have potential, basically, sky's the limit in terms of budget. So now, I've been working in two finance and one bank. Actually, two finance and two banks. In finance, we have one company that's hiring. We have 40 ML guys. So, the banking and finance industry now is maximizing the use of AI. So, there's a big chance that in the next 2 to 3 years, AI roles will probably be one of the most highest paid career. So, okay, DevOps, cloud architect, that's one of that's one of the roles that you could be able to work in. Automation engineer, infrastructure engineer, and SRE. Site SREs and DevOps medyo iba sila. SREs is more on operations. No? So pero almost the same yung description, but SREs is more on operations. Okay, a newest career path, ChatOps, GPT ChatOps. I think there's a ChatOps already. GitOps and AIOps. Yeah. So, unfortunately, meron ng AIOps ngayon that manages multiple, for example, API in different tools like ChatGPT. Ano pa nga yung iba? So, anyways, yon. So, I think for us, besides that, DevOps now is gaining ground again as a base role. There's a very big potential in working in the DevOps field and AI field. Kasi DevOps now is integrating AI. And for our part, we're looking for more developers to join our team actually, especially ML and AI related. Okay? So yeah, sorry, medyo mabilis ng konti. Pero medyo matagal, di na akong naging speaker. But anyways, any questions? Salamat. Okay na. Sige. Thank you.